Okay, hey, what's up? So I am going to be showing off some OpenAPI validation with a web app that's written in RPG. So this uses OpenAPI, or Swagger as it's previously known, Elastic as the web server, and NoxDB as the uh, JSON validator slash parser. Um, this is Stoplight. I use Stoplight to actually build and document my APIs, my open APIs. Um, I have two right now. I have one called search, which is a post request, and one called user, which is a get request. Note that user only requires a query parameter, and the search requires an object with the name in there. So that's what we're going to do first. We're going to build a RPG web app that uses these endpoints. So what I'm going to do is take the schema of my OpenAPI schema here, and I've written a little tool in Node.js, and it will be open source, but I'm just going to paste it in and run and what that will do is build, the output folder is missing. One second. What that's going to do is build these two files, validation and web app. Now, web app is actually the base of the application, and so for example, it has our router here, it defines what port it's going to run on. It actually it handles the requests. Now note that the procedure names are actually the same name as the operation ID. So here's our operation ID post search API, and that's what the procedures are called too. Then there's the validation folder file, and this is what actually does the real validation. Now what I'm going to do is take this source here, bring them over to IL editor and create some stream files. First one's going to be the app.rpgle. I'm just going to drop it in, and I'm going to just change the copy for the validation. Now, of course, you could have made the validation a bound module, but I got kind of lazy, and so I'm just doing it the cheap way around. Validation.rpgle, save, and let's have a look. Let's do a refresh here. And I've got to change the CCS ID for these because you can't compile UTF-8 right now on this box, so that's fine. And all I'm going to do, note that Elastic and NoxDB are on the binding directories, and I do actually have them in my library list as well. I'm just going to go ahead and compile this. So it's compiled. Now if I come over to here and do work obj the app, it's in my library. And I'm just going to start it up. So with with Elastic, you just call it in a submit job, and you put it in QSys Nomax. So just call it the app. Okay, so now it's running. If I come over to here and just go to /user, we'll get invalid request. Now remember that for our /user, which is our get request, we need to pass a query parameter of ID. So for example, question mark ID equals hello would work. Nothing else will work. If we pass in that, it's still an invalid request. Nothing is going to work unless it's ID with a value. So ID hello, and that's a successful request. A very simple one. Now let's go over to our post request. Our post request took in a single object, a single property name, which is a string. It's required. So let's come over to Postman. Note that I already have it up here. What I'm going to do is just get rid of the whole thing for now and send. It's invalid, okay? Now let's paste it and just change the name of the property to something that's not valid. It's still invalid. How about we change it to name? Then it becomes valid. Oh, invalid request. What did I do? What's wrong? Oh, you know what? Let me check. Oh no, that was the wrong thing. I didn't want to do that. Oops, let's get rid of those. I have the old versions of the apps running. Now let me end that one too. Too many jobs, too little time. Okay, so now if I do work job the app, it should still be running. Just type it in. It is still running. Good. So now if I send it, it's a successful request. So that's because I had other jobs running that were overtaking it. It's a successful request, even though that JSON was invalid. That would be NoxDB. Anyway, if I send it, it's good. If I change the name, it's still invalid, so on and so forth. Now, how about we want to add a new parameter to it. Let's say we want to add an age. Let's say the number. We'll make it required, and all we have to do is take the spec, bring it over to the generator, paste it, and run the generator again. It's going to update. It's added what it's needed to added, and the only piece that I need to change is the validation here, because I've only changed the validation. I haven't added any APIs, so on and so forth. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to end the job for the app 41 star and med. Okay, I'm going to make sure it's ended. Just do a 10. Yep, it's ended. I'm going to recompile the app here, and then I'm going to start it back up again. That's my app. This is the app. Too many apps these days. Okay, so there it is running. Now if I try and send a request to the search again, it's going to be invalid. Now I know why. It's because we're missing the age. If I try and add something else, it's not going to work. But if we add age, then we're good. So we have some basic OpenAPI validation in there. Now it can get a lot more complex than this. So for example, if we wanted to say in our search, let's say we wanted to add, a list, which is an array of strings, or if we wanted to add an, let's say data, like a data object, or just an object of some kind with its own properties, we can make those required as well. And then if we take the code for that and stick it through the generator, you'll see that it generates code for those situations. So it checks if the list is there, the data thingy, it's checking it's all there. So, which is cool. It can, what else can it do? It could do a fair few things, which is, anyway, a matter of the fact is we have some basic OpenAPI validation there, and it's pretty damn cool. It was really interesting to work on. It took pretty much like 4 hours to do it, so because there's lots of different use cases behind it. But what's coming next is model support, so you can create a model and reuse it between different APIs and have it validate against that. So that's what I'm going to be doing next, and for now that's pretty much it. So thanks for tuning in, friends.